Hi, hello everyone. Happy Thursday. Kimberly and I are very, very excited today. I think we've been telling you that we are happy to have a wonderful guest with us today. And I want to introduce Kamilah Reid-Burrell, who currently is a content manager at Pearson Education, but also has been working on a passion project. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And her project is looking at women, all kinds of women, 40 plus, and how they navigate within the workplace. And this ties very deeply into kind of some of the conversations that Kimberly and I have been having. So we're really, really excited to have Kamilah here today. So Kamilah, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you both for inviting me to join you today.
Yeah, I'm excited because, as we said, that this project is about all women. And the series that we're doing right now, Kamilah, as you know, is about Black women, what Black women want. And so as you've gone into the deep dive and had these amazing conversations with all women, I'm looking forward to our conversation because I'd love to, kind of deep dive into where we're like, where we're different, and, all of that, right? Because we hear so much about being different, but are we really?
Yeah.
But I think, Deb, we were talking about just the project in general.
Yeah, so I think our first question is to give some context here and tell us a little bit, like, why did you start this project? And then we'll kind of take it from there.
Sounds good. So it's called Women's Work, the 40 Plus edition. And I started this project as a way to explore my own questions about what I want work to look like in my 40s and 50s. I am in my 40s. Approaching that midway point now. And I realized I haven't taken stock of where I am, how I feel about where I am and where I want to go. So as you mentioned, I'm with Pearson. I'm based at Pearson Canada in Toronto. And I've been in this industry for over 20 years. And I came to realize that I don't know a lot about the experiences of women in other industries, largely because publishing in general is quite a small pool. People move from one company to another. So you really see the same faces and the same sorts of people, no matter which one of the big companies you work for. So I wanted to learn about how other women are navigating the glass ceiling. How are they dealing with discrimination? How are they juggling going back to school or launching their own businesses with their needs to, pay the bills? And also, at a time, I think a lot of us heard a lot about it earlier. They don't talk about it so much anymore, but being in the sandwich generation, many of us have aging elders that we are deeply connected to and partially responsible for, some of us. And many of us are raising children while trying to pursue our passion. So I wanted to learn about how other women are doing it, hoping to gain some insight into how I can do it, and how I can make this a productive and meaningful experience at the end of the day. So I think anyone who listened yesterday heard me say that, 2020 has been, a unprecedented. We've heard that word a lot, but
right. Over and over again.
Yeah, given me space and time to explore these questions. But it has removed traditional networking opportunities, right? Mm-hmm. And I have not historically pursued those sorts of networking opportunities because it just isn't my speed. I'm an introvert, going to some conference room somewhere I've never been before with a room full of people I don't know, trying to figure out how to, introduce myself. And that is just not how I work. I am more about individual and personal connections, right? Like I can't even hold a dinner party properly. If there are more than two couples, I don't know who to talk to. I'm afraid somebody's left out. Like I get all over the place. But in the one-on-ones, I thrive, right? Like I'm deeply curious. I think people want to tell their stories and they want to tell it to someone who is respectful and and yearning to learn something. They have something to offer, and I am eagerly trying to absorb that knowledge and that experience and apply it to my own life. And I feel like this project, I'm hopeful that once I get all of the information in, I analyze it, that I can share it with other women. I think a lot of us are in the same position where we've been on that hamster wheel for a long time, and are now having a moment to look around and see what's going on with other women, and think about what it is we want to do for ourselves.
Well, I think it's so important too, because I believe that the reason we are in the situation we're in today, in large part, is because people don't take the time to hear other people's stories, right? Mm-hmm. And we come from a point of exception, or what's the difference. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, I would say most of the time, what you learn when you share a story is how much you have in common, right? And that's what we're missing as humans. We have so much in common, but we like to focus on what's different, right?
Absolutely.
And that's, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Like
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go.
Oh, I was just in that moment. I also think that the structure of, the society that we live in right now does not encourage that sort of sharing, right? Like it even if we look at, the race to find a vaccine for COVID, it forced a never before seen opening of doors between scientists around the world. And look at what they did. Look at what they could do by sharing knowledge, by, this is what worked for us. This is where we've struggled. Look at what they did, and just apply that across any problem. We are so much stronger when we are sharing, when we're connecting, when we're problem solving together, than when we're individually attacking the same thing with blinders on, basically.
That's right.
Well, and that kind of.
I just want to say, like, at the Pfizer scientist who really brought it all together was a young Black woman who was a scientist. And so when you think about that, and you think about how everyone came together, right? So they took their diversity, they brought it together, and they created something pretty amazing, because there were different voices and different points of view and different learning. All that came together to make something wonderful. So that kind of brings me to this point. As you were talking to all of the women, what did you see were the biggest similarities and the biggest differences between white women and Black women?
Right. So I'm still pretty early in my collection of data, but I am already definitely seeing themes and similarities and, minor differences. But although those I can't yet attribute to race, because I don't yet have enough of a pool to make that conclusion. But I would say that universally, we are concerned about how we show up in the workplace in different ways. So for women of color, and particularly Black women, there is a ever-present awareness of how others perceive us, of controlling how our emotions are expressed, so that we're not, pegged as the angry Black woman. And more in 2020 and 21, an awareness of when we are being tokenized. And that, I think, would be an issue that the white women I've spoken to have not raised. I think Black women and women of color, we've managed our images for years. Like, this is not new. We all have our work voice that our kids, when they hear us on the phone, are like, who are you talking to? Right? That is not how you sound. The code switching that we do, this is the norm for us. What I'm finding with these cohorts is that the older we get, the less we are willing to do that, right? So we're beginning to shed some of the persona and showing our actual personalities a little bit more. though cautiously, there are repercussions for that. But as we get older, we're less and less concerned with managing that identity in a way that is pleasing to the white gaze. And I think that's important for organizations to recognize and adjust to. It may be a bit shocking at the outset, but it is how it has to be. It's how it should be. People should be able to show up as their true selves. They bring the best of themselves when they bring their whole selves, right? I would say that of all of the women that I've interviewed, the commonality is a desire to do work that is meaningful, and not just for themselves personally, but there is a sense of responsibility for their communities and the world at large. And they're all concerned, all of them, with building bridges for those who are coming behind us. We to a person, felt a desire to mentor, to lead, to sponsor. We have all identified a few young people that we think you could go places. And I want to make sure that you are not stifled. If there's anything I can do to help you get there, that is what I want to do. And every one of them expressed that same sort of desire.
I think that's new, relatively new to our generation. I don't know about you, but I remember when I started my career, there was a woman towards the beginning who looked like me, and I was so excited because I thought, oh, wow, this is what people talk about. There's someone who looks like me who could be a mentor, or we didn't talk about sponsors, but we always talk about mentors. And that just wasn't the case. Like, she embraced her tokenism like with a badge. And I know in talking to other people that started off when I did, like the late 80s, the 90s, like people liked being the only one because they felt like they had achieved something that was greater than others. And I'm really proud to say that most of our generation was like, nope, that's not how it works. We're in here and we need to do what we can to make sure other people have gotten here. And as you know from statistics and everything that's going on right now, we haven't done the best job, but we have tried. So and it's something that's ongoing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think too that the experience in the 80s and 90s was we didn't know as much as we know now. And many women, Black people, bought into the fallacy of exceptionalism, right? We bought into the meritocracy, the notion that we were there and we were the only one there because we were, obviously we worked harder, we this, we that, we the other. I think today we're well aware that that is not the case, right? That there is a system built that is holding others down, and we want to take part in dismantling that system and making room for more of us. I often say, I'm, so proud of the strides that people of color are making today. And when they announce, the first this or the first that, it's tinged with, it's bittersweet. I don't think we should still have firsts. I have no desire for my child to be the first anything. She should have many examples in any field, in any area of life, of other people of color having achieved in those areas. So it's a double-edged sword. It's like, yay, we got it first, but also why? This isn't, it's gross that this is only now the first. So I think there's a shift in our understanding of why certain people succeed. And it is not that they are exceptional. There are many Barack Obamas out there, believe me. There are many, Ava, there are many of us. They just haven't had access or the luck or the timing or whatever it is that got those particular people into those positions at those moments in time.
Yeah. So, that one of the things that you said that resonated for me as well is the whole point about kind of age and how that sort of brings you more into yourself. And as a white woman, I feel that as well. I find myself, the older I get, the less I'm willing to just sort of figure it out and get along in the ways that I've had to get along. And somebody for Christmas had bought me this beautiful handmade pin of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And it's absolutely beautiful. And I want to put it on a coat if I ever wear a coat again that anybody needs to see. they said to me, you have to, when you get, because I'm looking for a job right now, but when you get a job, you might want to decide. And I'm like, you know what? I'm wearing that pin no matter what job I go to. And if that means something negative to somebody, then so be it. And I think in my 30s or 40s, I might not have felt that way.
Absolutely. Yes. And if I can add to that, I think as we get older, signaling in advance those sorts of things is something we're doing more of, because if this is if this pin or my, necklace with the cross or my whatever is, if the Star of David is going to be the thing that makes you not want to hire me, I'm glad we figured that out before.
That's exactly right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What you're getting. If this is not what you want, then you're right. This is not the right fit for me. Absolutely.
Well, I know my mom used to tell me when I was younger, life is about prioritizing and knowing what you're willing to put up with and what you're not willing to put up with in any situation, your marriage, your job, the people around you. And I think as a young person, I think we had the patience to put up with more, right? And say, well, maybe we need to figure this out, right? And then as you get older and you realize, it's like the old boyfriend, you didn't need him, right? I'm moving on. It's the same thing with, jobs. If it's not right for me as an older person who has experienced, if it's not right, move on. I mean, that's the advice I tell young people. Why squeeze yourself into a situation that you're not going to be able to grow from, learn from it, and then move on to where they'll value you. So absolutely. So I know, Deb, you have another question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have a question. And it goes off of what you said before, Kamilah, about being a first and how it can be bittersweet. And then how do we get past that so that there's many great, talented people of color in all places. And I think one of those things, that we can talk about, and maybe you can give your point of view, is on allyship and sponsorship, and how can we support each other? One of the things that Kimberly and I have talked about several times during these videos is our own friendship and our own desire to support one another, and how that grew out of a relationship that kind of happened, that was professional, that became a friendship, that became a really supportive friendship. And it's all about the desire to have those relationships and create them. And to your point, I mean, I'm an introvert as well, and I'm much better one-on-one than in any other forum, but would love your ideas and thoughts on how allyship works best, and how do we support each other?
That's a great question, and I mulled this over quite a bit. Support is definitely a thread that's come up repeatedly through my interviews, and is, it's a question I've pondered throughout my career. I don't have a complete answer, but I would say that I've learned that women are not always comfortable asking for help. And this, is, I think, tied to the fallacy of the superwoman who can do it all. If you admit that you need help, you're somehow admitting that you're a failure and you're not able to do it all, which you should not be able to do. Like, nobody is capable of doing everything. And, I would encourage women to shed that damaging ideal and reach out, I have been surprised in this project at the enthusiasm of the responses to my requests, right? Like for me, it was deeply uncomfortable to ask, to sometimes reach out to someone I hadn't spoken to in years, or to complete strangers. And almost across the board, the responses have been so encouraging. So how can I help? What more can I do? Do you, it has just been, and women want to help people. I mean, this is focused on women. I'm not saying men don't, but I'm not interviewing them, so I don't really know. But
that's another project.
Yeah, it's a whole nother project, but yeah, the enthusiasm of the response, people want to help. And I'm sure if you are asked the right question, you want to help too, right? Like, these are not, requests that are put outs, right? Like, they're things that the person on the receiving end of the request sees the value in and adopts, and it gets invested in, and it's kind of a beautiful thing. So I think that if for 2020, for me at least, was a year of finding different ways to connect, and that asking for what I need and responding enthusiastically so that the person I am responding to is encouraged to keep asking. Mm-hmm. That's an incredible way to offer support. In terms of allyship and sponsorship, I think about those as sort of different types of people helping the racers in a marathon, right? Your ally is a great cheerleader. They're gonna make sure there's water at the water stations for you, but also for everybody, right? Like, it's not specific to an individual, where sponsorship is specific to the individual. My sponsor got up at 4 a.m. and trained with me. They are, they know what my best time is, and they want to help me in any way they can to make sure I beat it. It's the difference between a diffuse role as an ally and a very targeted specific role. Your sponsor is putting themselves on the line in ways that perhaps an ally isn't. Like, an ally can be supporting through financial means, but that doesn't, they're not in jeopardy. They're not risking their job perhaps by speaking up in this moment, or by pointing out a moment of discrimination in a professional setting. So that, I would say, would be how I think about allyship and sponsorship.
Great. Thank you.
And the fact that sponsorship is much harder to come by than allyship. I think cultivating that relationship, there are people who would absolutely agree with, the human rights issues that we're talking about a lot lately, but would have a harder time standing up in a space where they have not typically, objected to the absence, perhaps, of voices that should be seated at those tables.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's more on the line as a sponsor.
Absolutely.
Like. Yeah.
So, this just makes me think there's just so much to unpack that we need to do this again. And I want to encourage everyone who's watching, and we have a bunch of eyes on us right now, to connect with you on LinkedIn, and we'll do that as we further in. But, what we ask is, we always we always close out our conversations with the bottom line. So, before we do that, we have a question here, and we'll do this. So Susie said that perhaps spaces don't yet make room for, or know how to make room for sponsorship. And it's not a question, but that's her observation. Mm-hmm. Right? So, and I think, as I was listening to you about sponsorship, and I consider allyship, I think allyship is something that could morph into sponsorship, because I think that, an ally and a sponsor need to be individuals or organizations that are willing to stand in the gap to make sure that whatever that gap is, or whatever that bridge that needs to be built, is there. And so I think that there's opportunity to start small with allyship and then grow to sponsorship. But what is your bottom line on your project, this conversation? What do you want to leave our listeners with?
My bottom line is do the thing. Do the damn thing. Whatever it is that you have been putting on the back shelf, that you thought would take up too much of your time and energy, that you are not sure that you will get the buy-in for, give it a shot. Do it. I am amazed by the energy I gain from doing this project. I can spend hours just gone. I don't even realize I am working, but I am working towards something that I am passionate about, that I care about, that I know can improve the lives of the people I care about, and maybe even complete strangers. And that gives me the energy that I didn't know I had. So that's my bottom line. Just do it. I'm not, it's not a plug for nothing, but yeah, do it.
My gosh, thank you, Kamilah. This has been, we've kind of gone back and forth, and I think having guests just adds so much to our series in so many ways. And I am, we are so appreciative of having you here today.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Thank you
so much
for having me.
And so why don't you let everyone know how they can reach out to you, because we have quite a few women who want to be interviewed.
Oh, exciting. That's very exciting. This is on LinkedIn only, I think. So you can absolutely click on my link, message me through LinkedIn, or, send me I don't know what they're called. I was going to call it a friend request, but I think that ages me now.
Connection, maybe?
You can reach me at KamilahRB@gmail.com. I'm, going to try to get to everybody, but this thing is snowballing. So, it may take me a couple of days to respond, but I absolutely will. And I look forward to having amazing conversations with all of you.
Great. Thank you. So everyone, thank you for joining us today. Let me just give you a little preview of what's coming up next week. So we're continuing our series on what Black women want. And next week, it's all about health and wellness. So what are the stressors and how can we help ourselves or find help so that we don't burn out and we can be our full selves to us and all the people who matter. So we're going to have another special guest. I'm very excited. We're going to have Dr. Michelle Cooley-Strickland. And Dr. Strickland is a clinical psychologist with UCLA. She's a researcher and she has a practice, and she is just amazing energy. I know you're going to love it. We're going to learn a lot. So join us next week at 11 o'clock. Thank you, Kamilah. Thank you, Deb. Thank you, everyone. Get paid. Have a great Thursday.
Bye.